All right, welcome everybody to the TTG podcast. We're here with a quick hit today. Just going to go over the updated rules for the 2022 calendar year. Got some relatively decent sized changes. We want to make sure we touch on them, elaborate on them, so we can answer all those questions. So people stop blowing up our inboxes with red dot site questions and everything else that seems to be coming up. First thing we'll talk about. Let's open up with match director's discretion.
That's a fun one.
Jake, you can handle this one.
Okay. So match director's discretion is if there's a rule that's not written in the rule book and something happens out on the field, and we'll just use Nationals 2020. A gun went down in an event. The event was they had to shoot through VTAC barriers, and so it took a long time to take the shots. A rifle goes down. The athlete didn't have to shoot the iterations. He just did all the physical work. Even though he would have taken all the hits or all the misses for all the shots not fired, he still would have ended up like fourth. So we had to come up with a rule for that. And that's now in the rule book. But the match director's discretion means that if there is not a rule specifically written, but there is an unfair advantage or something that happened on the field, the match director will make a call to make it the most equal across the board as far as the decision that gets made. And that can be a number of things. But yeah.
So just to clarify on this, it's the match director's discretion is only implemented in an extreme circumstance.
Correct.
This isn't something that's like, oh, so-and-so's here and we don't want them to win, so we're going to come up with some stupid shit that puts them up. It's because, no, seriously, like you read some of the other competition, not like in the shooting world, but that have gone on in the fitness world lately. And it, like Dubai CrossFit Championship, there was a rule and there was basically like, yeah, we're just going to change it when we feel like it. And it literally, I forgot what the rule said, but that's what it meant.
That's pretty much what it meant. Yeah.
And
we think somebody has the capacity to win, so they're going to win.
Right. Yeah. This rule is specifically in there for if there is something that we cannot point to the rule book and say, hey, due to this rule, this is the call. That's why this rule is put in there.
One of our athletes, one of the tactical games athletes went and competed in another event this year. And it wasn't just him. There's the other guys. We're talking about it openly on another podcast where rules were changed. As the event is going on, they're changing the rules because they don't like what's happening to their top athletes.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
That isn't happening. I think really what the match director's discretion is in there for is for when a competitor knowingly walks into a gray area. And then now you've put yourself up to the discretion of the match director, right? Like, did you break the rule? Maybe. Or like, did you enter into a gray area where it's like, you did something that you shouldn't have, but you're standing there saying, well, show me in the rule book where it says that I can't, but fill in the blank, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Just because there isn't a rule for something doesn't mean that we have to allow you to come in and do something that's completely shitty and unfair to the rest of the field.
Correct.
Right. And that's really what the match director's discretion is there for. I think at this point, we have enough, and I'll say this in a minute, in Mississippi, something will pop up, but like, I think at this point we have, our rule book was completely stolen from the Texas 3-gun championship. I told Aaron I was doing it when we did it. They had years and years and years of experiences that equaled that rule book. We modified that rule book to fit some fitness stuff and the other unique things that we do. We've added, I guess the rule book came in like 2 years ago.
Correct.
We've added stuff every year since then, and things will come up and you're just like, what? How did this?
How did we miss this?
Yeah, it's in that, or it's just like, how could you have ever thought something like this was going to happen?
Right.
So
I mean, on that, the UCMJ, the Uniform Code of Military Justice, has a rule in it at the end of it that's basically like, hey, if we didn't catch a rule somewhere else in here, there's a rule that we can screw you for whatever we want to screw you for.
That's what this is.
Pretty much what's safe.
Yeah. Just because we didn't make a rule.
But it's definitely not something that we're going to go around and be like, hey, you're new and you're doing really good.
Right.
We don't like that. So we're going to come up with something real quick to squash you down. You know, like we wouldn't, there's nothing that we'd like more than like a new guy to come in and just start laying it down. I mean, it happens.
Hulk smash.
I mean, it's
happened before.
It's happened before, and it'd be great for it to keep happening. So
we talk a little bit about, we can go into arbitration. I think it's a good place to segue into.
So arbitration in the past, we've asked people to wait to the very end, to the arbitration period. The last thing that we want to do, there's a reason for that. One being you just want to be able to knock it all out at one time, and you don't want like things coming in throughout the day, whatever. What we are also trying to do is get people home on Sunday so that they can go to work on Monday, right? And not have them hang around while we're figuring out 57th place in intermediates 3-second discrepancy on stage 2, right? Like that's not really what it's intended for, but we're definitely going to take all those things seriously and get them corrected.
Sure.
But we want those things to come in throughout the weekend now. We've added to the staff that is going to be at the match specifically so that we can handle scoring during the match and not just at the very end in that period. So as things happen, there's going to be a form that's filled out. So if it isn't just rectified immediately at the score table, something they can take care of, match director comes over and it's not something that's just like, we're going to make a call on it right now and this is how it's going to be. You fill out a piece of paper, put the time on it, put exactly what's happened, put your score sheet with it, hand it into the scorekeeper, and then it's going to be rectified that night. That morning, you're going to have an answer. If it's on Sunday and that's the last day of competition, come to us during the day and we're going to have an answer before arbitration starts, or like during arbitration, we'll have that answer for you. The goal is to have at most questions about the last stage or two during the day.
Right.
And the other way that we're going to be doing that is making a concerted effort to update scores throughout the day, multiple times. Mm-hmm. Now I say that, but a lot of people don't know how the scoring system works, but it works off Wi-Fi. Like we have to have access to the internet to do this. There's a lot of ranges that we have to literally drive somewhere else to update the scores and then come back. So we may have to drive 10 minutes away to update the scores and then come back.
I would say that was at least 8 ranges last year that we didn't have Wi-Fi or any connection.
Right. And then now one of the things that we are doing when we're picking ranges that we're going to have events at, one of the questions that's on that questionnaire is, how good is the internet?
Do you have Wi-Fi?
Cell service and Wi-Fi work? 2 big questions.
I think like the partner, of course, it happened at the partner match, but it was like basically blacked out there. We had to drive back to the main building to get internet service, which the main building was like 10 minutes away. So officially what it looks like. So there's going to be written documentation of appeal if it's not taken care of at the score table right there, or if for some reason the match director can't make it, or if the match director can make it, but can't make a call on it right then. You're going to write that down, put a timestamp on it, sign it. That way we have what time it happened, proof that you're asking about it, all those things.
Yep.
Only athletes can arbitrate or inquire about scores. So if you have a coach, if you have a significant other, if you have a brother, a mother, a father, a cousin, a distant relative, anything else besides the person that is pulling the trigger at the firing line, they cannot ask or inquire about scores or dig through the score sheets and look at other people's scores and write them down so that you can know whatever the other people's scores are. You're not allowed at the score table unless you're shooting.
You're only able to look at your scores and your targets, by the way.
And I'm not trying to be like a jerk when I'm explaining this. It's just, it has to be painfully clear. So only athletes can approach the score table, arbitrate the day of. So we're going to be making our best effort to update the scores throughout the day. Please come to us throughout the day. If you see something And also there seems to be some kind of like, oh, that's somebody else's score, but I know it's wrong, but I'm not going to say something about it because it's not my score. No, it's completely fine. In fact, every single competition that I've competed in, if I'm not in first, I'm looking at the scores in front of me to make sure, hey, do these scores look right? You know, does the distribution look correct? Is first place 100%? Second place is like 95% or 92%? Because if first place is 100% and second place is 47%, there's a problem.
Right.
Like, so
Unless it's a run against Kempson or a 2-gun stage against you.
Unless Kempson's involved and there's no shooting, that is a problem. Then the arbitration period at the end. So there's going to be official opening of the arbitration period. If you aren't present when that arbitration period opens, that doesn't mean that arbitration period doesn't start. That doesn't mean that we're not going to like run to the score table and say it's starting now and then hit the clock and like try and get it to end first. There's going to be a reasonable amount of time. Then at the end of that time, like we'll call it 15 minutes, right? If we're still, it's not like we're going to hard end it at 15 minutes. And if your issue didn't get taken care of, sorry, 15 minutes is over. We're going to take care of everybody in line. Then when it's done, there's going to be a last call. So if you're standing out in the crowd and you think there's a problem, but you haven't had time to figure out if it's a problem or not, raise your hand and say, I need a couple of minutes. Come up to the score table. We will help you figure out.
Right.
We're going to pull up the sheets. We will help you figure it out. We keep everything. Mm-hmm. We have the entire weekend in bins. We can pull up your score sheet. We can pull up your sheet that you were shooting at from stage 2 on Saturday. We can pull that out and take a look at it and recount hits. Like, yep, we got it. I do recommend that everybody take pictures of all their targets, because then you can also go back and reference that without having to come to us to find your target, because we're not going to do that just for you to check. When arbitration is over, those scores are in stone. There is no changing scores. So if that following week a video pops up of somebody not doing 7 burpee over bars instead of 8, and their judge counted it as 8, and we have concrete proof, you can show that to me and be like, yep, you're right. That was 7 reps. It should have been 8. They still got the score that they got. Like, it's too late today.
It's too late.
Right. I think at Wadapalooza, the CrossFit competition that just happened, there was a girl that, like, you were supposed to put the sandbag down, take your hands off of it, pick it back up, turn around and carry it back. But you had to set it down at each end, much like we've done quite a few times. Mm-hmm. She didn't set it down. She ran across the line, turned around, ran off back. Judge didn't catch it. They didn't go back and penalize her for that, even though they knew immediately what had happened. It was too late, right? So just like instant replay on Monday, Tuesday football games, they have 1 million cameras out there at all different angles, that they have several $1 million worth of cameras and electronics. They don't catch stuff, right? Like, we're not going to catch everything. But what I do implore anybody that feels like they've been short-sighted by that is to think back on the weekend and know, well, I got away with something too.
Right.
That shot that they counted was as a hit that was like real close to that line. It probably wasn't touching that line, and I got that. Like there's certainly things that go one way or the other, and it's in all shooting sports. It's in every sport. Baseball with umpires, how many balls and strikes have been called? So it is what it is. We know it's not going to be perfect, but it's also that is part of competition. And a lot of people that haven't competed at high levels at different things in their life don't understand that one of the biggest aspects of competition is what's out of your control.
Yeah, 100%.
And how you handle that, how you get over that, and how you can handle that and still win. Mm-hmm. Because there has been several people that have won several times when something has happened or somebody else gained a huge advantage that they probably shouldn't have, because they were competitors that were experienced in competing. And they kept competing instead of just crying foul.
Right.
AKs.
Yeah. AK-47s and AK-74s. And yes, an AK-74 is a real thing. But AK-47 and AK-74s, which means 5.45 is allowed. No steel core or bimetal. Non-negotiable.
So your ammo will be checked at check-in.
Yes.
For steel core.
If you have, so let's make it painfully clear why. Just so I don't get, you're dumb. You don't know what ammo does. I owned an ammunition company. I know what ammo does. I do know that bimetal ammunition does not affect targets, just like lead core ammo. That's fine. Great. Steel core does. At certain distances, it doesn't. It's fine. It does start fires. Mm-hmm. That's the main reason why. Right. I think at the range here in Central Texas, not my range, but another range, they've had 4 or 5 fires specifically because of steel core ammunition.
We had 2 at Triple C because of steel core.
Right. So dry conditions, long grass, and very hot steel starts fires. So that's why it's not allowed. 5.45 is less than 5.56. It says 5.56 in the rules is the minimum caliber. It also says 5.45 is allowed in the line directly underneath that. So please make it to that next line before you send us an email saying 5.56 is the minimum caliber. It specifically says 5.45 is okay. 3,200 feet per second is the maximum of any round that can be brought out. That is to protect steel. Velocity kills steel. So feet per second kills steel. Not the size of the bullet, not the weight of the bullet. The construction of the bullet can kill steel, and then also speed kills steel. But basically 300 blackouts allowed. The minimum caliber is 5.56. Do not exceed 3,200 feet per second. If you want to bring a 450 Beowulf and compete with it, great. Good luck. I don't care what you bring. It can't be over 3,200 feet per second. I highly suggest an AR-15 in 5.56 if you want to have a chance. That's my suggestion. Chalk, no chalk. There is no chalk allowed at tackle games. We don't care that it improves your grip. And when I say chalk, that is any grip enhancing substance.
Correct.
So
liquid,
that is
chalk, anything other than dirt. You can use
grip
dirt.
Crap you put on, like competitive shooters put on their hands to like grip the pistol, not allowed. Super grip, super glue,
Gorilla glue,
anything that helps you.
Nick puts Gorilla glue in his hair.
Yeah. No lifting straps like deadlift straps, none of the gymnastics hand protection straps or deals that Nick uses to do CrossFit tricks. None of that stuff is allowed. We know that you can reverse it and use it basically as a strap.
Right. What about thumb tape? Because that's one that's come up before that the question's been asked.
Thumb tape is fine. However, if I walk up and shake your hand and you have thumb tape on and your tape sticks to my hand, we have problems. Does that make sense? Because if I see you with thumb tape on, we're shaking hands.
You put it on inverted?
Yeah.
No, I put it on because my little thumbs get screwed up.
Just making a point. You put it on inverted and then tack your hands.
We're not trying to have anybody rip their thumbnails off if you're hook gripping stuff.
Correct.
Like
Thank you.
CrossFitters.
Let's see.
What about stage briefs? So we've talked a lot about the rule book. There are some times where we deviate from the rule book. So when we talk about that a little bit.
Situations in which the stage brief is going to supersede the rule book is basically when we're going to break the rules of the rule book. Don't come to us and say, I'm going to use Jeremy more because he does it the most. Jeremy just told me that I'm going to holster my pistol in this condition. Yep, because we're doing a 2-gun stage and that's allowed. So he said it's okay. It's okay. There's other things. Most of the time it's when we deviate and go into more of an action shooting, or we're doing something that's really cool and we're going to have you like take a gun off and leave it somewhere.
Right.
And it's mainly just for safety. We don't want it hitting your head or
like the O course would be one at nationals. We had to have you shed all your equipment so you didn't
and then
hit your head.
There were several hot button topics that came up after nationals that if you were listening to the same morning brief that I was Friday morning, it would have been painfully clear what the answer was and it never would have been a problem. because the morning brief, the first morning of the match, supersedes everything that's in the rule book, right? So a lot of these rules were being briefed before the match was starting to let everybody know, hey, these rules are in effect for this match. There's going to be several things probably throughout the year as new things happen that we'll start briefing before each match. Don't be talking to your friends. Don't be nervous. Trust me, you're going to know exactly where to go and what to do in just a second. Clear your mind and listen to the rules that we're saying. And then, because those rules are in effect and you're responsible for knowing those rules.
Yeah, being present during the briefs is extremely important. And I know you're around your friends and you're having a good time, but to take that, 30 minutes in the morning, shut up, pay attention, to take that 15 minutes while stage is being briefed, ask your questions.
I promise we don't like just getting up in front of folks, just talking because we like to hear ourselves talk.
I think you both
deliver
love
some
it.
decent information in the morning that
Jake,
people might want to hear.
Jake likes listening to himself.
Well, that's probably that's true more than it's not true.
The from a match director and a competitor's perspective, I have stood back and I have watched the same people, the same offenders over and over again, talking and bullshitting with their friends just to come back and be fighting mad with a battle boss or somebody because they did something that was briefed,
right?
Against what was brief. And you're sitting there and this person is making a fool of themselves. You're sitting there and that person's just making a fool of themselves. And you're just like, man, all the other 24 people heard that,
Yeah, it's like, hey, look around. Why are you the only one asking that question?
So, and mentally, I can go back and see that person talking to somebody else while, whoever was talking was giving out the rules. Don't talk. Just listen to that. There's things that can help you so much if you pay attention during that period. Age. The age that you're competing at will be the age that you are the morning that nationals starts. So if you are 49 years old all year and nationals is, I don't know when nationals is. Let's say it's the 19th, November 19th. In the morning of November 19th, you turn 50. You're competing as a 50-year-old all year if you want to. You can still compete in the 40-49. You're not like, if you are older than that division, you can always go down and compete into another division. Right. But Jonathan Lombardo is going to be 50 years old at the time of nationals this year. So he can now compete with the oldest people that are competing if he likes. He can also compete with the elites and do just fine.
Come on.
So
he's proven that. He's I think I heard a rumor that he's going to be competing in elite in Meridian.
He sends me really crappy videos of his lifts. He's still not there yet, but he's getting close.
If he does it again, he's starting the season off with another shoulder impingement. That's fine.
He may not be strong, but he sure is stubborn.
So speaking of really terrible things happening, what about the new rule about guns going down?
Guns going down.
What do you mean, like in an AMRAP?
Jake can cover this one. I'm tired of talking.
Yeah, let's talk about guns going down in an AMRAP.
So the same rule that I was talking about earlier, when a gun goes down in a regular event, how you get 10 seconds per miss and then 10 seconds per shot not fired. In an AMRAP, there needs to be a rule for that, because like, let's say you are going to be able to earn points in the physical portion, but you're not able to earn points shooting because your gun goes down. You can still get points in the workout, right? But it would take you time to shoot. So I believe, Jared, it's minus one shot for every round not fired plus a second one. So it's the same rule, just in an AMRAP of earning points as, yeah, but you're getting deduction of points, right? So if you shoot, like, let's say you have 10 rounds left in your magazine, that is going to be one missed shot or one negative point for every round unfired plus a second one because you didn't take the time to shoot that, because you're going to be able to earn points in the physical portion. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So if my gun goes down on round 2 of a 5-round, or
Correct.
say we've got AMRAP, and I've got 30 rounds left, spread across 3 different magazines, that means that I'm going to have 60 points worth of penalties, right?
Correct.
So 30 times 2 is going to be 60, but I could still continue the physical portion and
To
gain
earn
points there.
Correct.
Got
Just
it.
as you would be able to do the physical portion of a regular stage and have a lower raw time.
Yep.
Does that make sense? It's the same concept.
No, absolutely.
Obviously in reverse.
And that's because we saw that happen at an event.
Yeah, we saw that at an event this year, late in the year when we were doing an AMRAP, and
we found out in the parking lot right after, and I felt like crap the whole way home.
But luckily, no points were earned. Right, there was a bonus section at the end where points could have been earned. No athletes in that heat got to that section. So what that meant was there was no penalty that actually needed to be assessed, essentially, because that person's workout was kind of done right there.
And they stopped when it was done.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Got it.
Trust me, it doesn't feel good.
It doesn't feel good when you get told that. No.
Yeah.
Because there was definitely a hole that we caught after the fact.
Yeah. Right. All right. So I think the last one that we're really going to touch on was going to be the one that everybody has asked about, and that's been a thorn in our sides for a very long time. Let's talk through the updates.
The wound again. But I think it's necessary.
We had everything figured out. We had photos. We understood what the muzzle devices were going to be, and then we changed it. Why did we change it, and why was the rule the way it was for as long as it was?
Honestly, because it was stupid the way it was.
Yeah.
I knew it the whole time that it was stupid. And I'm not above saying that out loud. Like, it's true. There is a reason why there's not compensators allowed, right? Like my SJC Titan, I shoot 3-gun with. I would not want to shoot that. I would not want to do that to the people next to me on the firing line.
Correct.
Not so much. And I say SJC Titan. The first time I ever competed, me, Jeremy Moore, Bill Cochran, Pess, Tanel,
Raven,
specifically Raven, because he was in the lane right next to me with an SJC Titan on a 14.5-inch barrel or 12.5-inch barrel gun that was absolutely blowing everything everywhere. Right.
Yep.
My ears were fine after the match. My, contrary to popular belief and what has been told as fairy tales out there, my sunglasses did not melt. Right. Or my safety glasses did not melt. Carbon did not impregnate themselves into my sunglasses or eye protection. Hearing protection worked as it should have. I had just as much hearing loss at the end as I did when I started. And I won. So there you go. I was staying on the line. We were shooting prone next to Raven in the sandiest match of the year, and it affected me 0. Right? Like 0 affected by an SJC Titan on a short barrel rifle. Right? And for those of y'all that don't know what an SJC Titan is, it is probably, if it is not the most violent compensator on the market, it's up there. Mm-hmm. Like it's negligible. It's won contests. Like there's YouTube channels. You can Google SJC Titan. It is the best compensator on the market. That's why I use it when I'm trying to shoot really fast. And, it hurts my ears when I'm shooting it. And shooting that, I double muff my stuff. But here's the deal. When you're going out on a firing line and the sun isn't out great, there is a huge possibility, if the ground is right, that, like, I think Triple C was one of the worst ones. That dark
JTAC Ranch was pretty bad.
JTAC Ranch was bad because that dust, that was like black. But Triple C, it was sunny outside, but that dirt was really dark and thin. And when guns start going off, even after the compensator rule, you couldn't see shit downrange.
Yeah.
Right. It just compounds it. And the thing is that if you're the guy with the SJC Titan, it's not that bad. Or the Armalite 3-port brake.
Yeah, because you're blowing dust away from you.
It's going
out of your way.
Yeah, you're going away from you.
Out of your sight line, but directly into the sight line of the people to your left and the right. Right. Also, to the guy to your left, that they're shooting their AR right? And what's open? Their dust cover is open because they're shooting.
Mm-hmm.
So you're just piling dirt into this guy's gun to the side of him. But the guy to his left may not have that experience, right? So that's the reason why, and the only reason. It isn't because we don't want you to shoot any faster. I don't care how fast you're shooting. And it isn't because we feel like it's an unfair advantage. It isn't because somebody's old and butthurt about everything except A2 brakes. Like, you should see the guns that I have and the other guns I compete with. Like, the compensators on those things are laughable. Like, they're absolutely ridiculous. I love compensators. I use them. But as mentioned before, that's why we don't use them anymore. Moving forward, there are universal blast forwarding devices, right, that you can put on any gun. It will cover any muzzle device, and it will direct everything that is coming out of your compensator forward. Your compensator is still going to work as a compensator inside of that blast forward device. That is fine. It is not lost on me that thing is still going to be operating as a compensator, right? But what it is going to do is it's going to direct all the gas that is coming out of that compensator forward and out of the sight lines of the people to the left and the right. So bring your 3-gun rifle, put the universal blast forward device on it, and party. Nobody cares, right? The Surefire Warden, allowed. It is now discontinued, but anything like it is fine too.
So for 3 years, people have been asking they can use it. Now you can use it, but you can't buy it.
I waited.
Now that they don't sell it anymore.
This is what I'm going to hear. I waited until they were discontinued to allow them, so I knew you couldn't find them, and that's why I did it. But
so just very clearly, as long as we are outgassing forward, long as everything coming off of your rifle is going forward
in the direction of the barrel. So to get specific now on what a blast forward device is. A blast forward device is not a compensator. Okay. A blast forward device does not have holes on the side of it. Okay. Right. That are directing gas perpendicular to or at an angle of the barrel. The only opening can be on the front of the blast forward device that is directing gas in line with the barrel. It cannot be directing gas in any other direction except at the target. Right. So if you show up, because there are blast forward devices that have holes all on the sides of them, and it's to mitigate the gas that is going to the side. The gas still goes to the side. And then what is that gas doing? Blowing dust up on people to your side. It may not be violent or loud, but it's still blowing dust up in line with the barrel. So questions that we're going to be asked. I have XYZ device. It has a hole on the side. Okay. Does it have a hole on the side? Yes. Not allowed.
Right.
Okay.
Hard
That's
no.
very simple.
It's very simple. Yeah. It's a hard no.
As a port. No.
I have a blast forward device, and at the end, it has a compensator on it. Cool. Does the blast forward device direct all of the gas to the target in line with the barrel? What's the answer to that question? If there's a compensator on the end of the blast forward device that is directing gas to the sides, not all the gas is going forward to the target, therefore it's not allowed. It's very easy to understand this rule. All the gas has to be directed in line with the barrel. So if you're aiming at the target, the gas has to be going towards the target. If there's any gas going in any other direction besides the target, it's not allowed, and duct tape will not cover those holes. All right. We had people ask if they can cover their compensators with tape. That covers that. I'm tired about talking about holes.
Even though we're going to be talking about them every single day.
Yeah, I know.
Any other rules? Anything else that we need to cover for this year?
I think one thing we need to update is the weights for the team events or the team divisions.
Yeah, but we're not talking about in this one because we already said we're not talking about it in this one.
All right, well, I guess we're not talking about it in this one then. We'll talk about it in the next one.
And weights aren't in rules. That's not a rule. Weights aren't rules. So we're not talking
guidelines.
Guidelines.
So I think that covers it. But honestly, the none of these rules that we have are put in there to jam anybody up, right?
Right.
All these rules are just intended to have an enjoyable experience for everybody. Like with the I would love to just say, yep, bring whatever muzzle device you have out there. But the guy to your left that paid $325 and traveled and did all these things to get there didn't do that so that he could get blasted by your compensator all weekend.
Right.
Like,
Right.
I shot next to Raven. Raven's the nicest guy I've ever met in my life. I did not like love getting blasted by it. It didn't bother me, right? Because that was the first match I ever shot where literally everybody in the competition had compensator. Like, I didn't own a gun before that match that didn't have a compensator on it. I took my compensator off my gun to come and compete at the match. Because it had like the rules back then were just fucking awful, and there's no other word for it. And none of us were sure, right? So I just took mine off and put, whatever else, because I forgot what the wording was
very
that Tim
vague.
had in there, but it was just like, who the fuck wrote this? I don't know what any of this means. So I didn't want to break any rules, and anyway, that's how that ended. But but mainly, I'm not a rule book thumper. Like, Jake knew me prior to tactical games and has heard stories of me from his former boss. If there is somebody that rides the line on rules and like ruins your day, if there's something that that's what I did.
Yeah.
Before the tactical games, like, I was a match director's worst nightmare.
It's a hard fact.
So
Still a match director's worst nightmare.
but I was operating within the rules that were written down, and so that was. Other than that, nobody here's a rule thumper. Like, we're not walking around with a rule book to enforce rules.
Right.
We're walking around with a rule book to try and make sure we can find something to say what you have done is okay. That's what we're trying to do. Right. So keep that in mind when you're talking to us about it. Stay cool, and we will too.
I think that's a perfect way to sign off on this rules TTG podcast we had.
Stay cool.
Stay cool. All right. Thanks, guys.
And sorry, Mom, for cussing so.